What's going on, people? It's your boy Kelechi back with another episode of the Ramblin' Mind Podcast. How are each and every single one of y'all doing today? I hope y'all are staying safe. I hope y'all are taking care of yourselves. I hope y'all are doing all the things you know you ought to do during these times. Guys, please, I hope you're still wearing your masks and kind of staying away from people, even though you don't really have to do that anymore. But we still got this whole Delta variant thing going on in the world now, and it's all just please, if you haven't gotten your vaccine and you don't have any reason not to get a vaccine, maybe go get the vaccine. Like, I really don't want to go back into this whole lockdown thing. I really don't want to go back into like having to stay at home. I've really been enjoying going back to playing soccer. So please, guys, if you can get the vaccine, please find your way to go get that vaccine. We're right now at about a 50% rate of everybody who's gotten the vaccine. So please, guys, we really don't need another lockdown. I personally don't need another lockdown. It's been too long, and I'm enjoying life a little bit too much right now to go back into a lockdown mode. So please, thank you for getting your vaccine on my selfish behalf and my selfish request. Thank you very much. But anyway, enough of my ramblings, even though it's called the Rambling Mind Podcast. Today, we're going to have a little bit of a different podcast vibe. I'm excited, y'all. I don't know if y'all can tell from the fact that I'm rambling on so many different waves. I am excited. As the name suggests, I mean, you've already seen the title. You've seen the title for this podcast episode. We are doing an interview today, but it's not the regular interview that we usually do. Usually we get people on here to talk about money, talk about personal finance, talk about all that kind of stuff. However, as you guys know, I like to get people on here that I just believe are special in some way, shape, or form. And so today, I have a special guest. Her name is Naya, and I randomly discovered her YouTube page one day because, you know, the algorithm just somehow knows exactly what we're thinking about all the time. And I've been watching her ever since. I think it was around January last year or this year sometime. I don't really know. But it's like, yo, she makes awesome content. And her YouTube page is called The Black Female Engineer. And I was like, this is interesting. I'm an engineer. I like listening to engineers talk. And so I was like, let me listen a little bit more. And then I've been watching her stuff ever since. She shares her journey of career development, shares a journey of how she went from one area into another area, which we'll get into. That's why I'm saying area instead of talking about what it actually is. But please join me in welcoming Naya to the show today. And I hope y'all are clapping right now, because you should be clapping, because this is a big deal. Thank you for joining us today, Naya.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. And yeah, you have been watching since around like February. I remember your name popping up, and you've always been like so like nice to me, and like it always I always like recognized you when you commented and everything. I'm like, oh, there's my friend.
Yeah, I'm the type of person that when I find a channel that I really like on YouTube, I tend to start just binge watching it. Like, I'll watch every single thing from that point on. I'll be like, ooh, I like that. I like that. I like that. Share. Listen. Watch. Like. Like, I'm just the type of person who just like, if I find anybody I enjoy their content, I would just keep watching it. It's just, I go into the mode of serious binge mode of just like, I like this. I need more. I want more.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And you make awesome content as well. So I definitely wanted to have you on the show to share a little bit about your backstory, share a little bit about who you are, where you've been, where you're going, all that good stuff, and just share about just your life journey in a succinct and special way on this podcast. Usually, like I said, we usually talk about personal finance and investing on the podcast, but I wanted to share a little bit something different this time around. And before we get into any of that, please, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and just about who you are outside of the realms of social media and Instagram? I like to ask this question just to shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, in general. So I was born in Zimbabwe, so I come from a Zimbabwean family. And
Nice.
For people who are, from a different country, or the families are from a different country, that very much can be a different vibe.
I feel you. I'm Nigerian, so yeah, I feel you.
Yes. So I definitely grew up with just such a tight-knit, huge family. Moved from Zimbabwe to New York to now the Midwest. And really, I'm 23. I just graduated college a year ago, so I'm still, like many of y'all listening, probably trying to figure out what I'm trying to do and figure out this thing about life and whatnot. And so, yeah, I've just been trying to do that as best as I can lately.
Nice. So that's dope. That's really dope to hear. I mean, you're about the same age as my little brother, who also just graduated college a year ago. So it's always interesting hearing and listening to people that are just like starting to step out into the world and step out into life, and hearing their stories and seeing how they're going, and just seeing the parallels of like, yeah, I remember when I was there, even though I'm not that old, but still I'd be like, that's interesting. And hearing everybody's story, and just, I mean, you just mentioned a little bit ago about like just finding an apartment, and we were talking right before this of just like, oh yeah, I didn't know I have to set up power and water and all of these different things. And so it's just interesting hearing the stories of everyone who's just now starting up on their journeys.
Yeah, I'm so bitter about it though, having to set up utilities, but it's fine. It's okay. We'll make it.
Yeah. But yeah, so one of the reasons I wanted you on here is I do have a lot of younger listeners who are probably in the same vein of you, of just trying to figure out like, okay, where am I going in life? What am I about to do? What is the next steps that I want to take with this thing called life? What is the next thing that I wanted to do? And one of the things that I've been talking about with just finances is career, how important your career can be in just helping you on that financial journey. So I wanted to have you on here to speak a little bit more into that light. And the first thing I wanted to ask you about was, I remember you did a video where you talked about you were in finance and you went from finance into software engineering. And so I just wanted to ask, what drove that change, and what made you decide like, oh, I no longer want to do this thing, and I want to do the opposite, which is, well, not really opposite, but I want to do something else instead of what I started off doing.
Yeah, a couple things drove it. I would say COVID and the pandemic was the catalyst, but a couple things drove it. So throughout college, yes, I was finance and accounting double major, and I started out trying to get work experience in accounting. And from the get-go, I was like, nope, this is not it. I appreciated the firm I was working in. I was able to get an internship at a big four accounting firm, and I appreciated that so much. Appreciated the experience, but when they asked, when they called me up and asked, hey, would you like to come back next summer? I said, no, I'm okay. So then I was like, okay, maybe. It's like,
she hit him with the Heisman. She said, nope.
I'm like, So I was like, maybe accounting isn't it. So let's switch over to finance, still keeping that accounting major. But in terms of job, I was like, okay, let's try finance. So start focusing on finance careers and jobs. And I got a job at a big five bank out in New York working in derivatives. And it was the same exact situation. Amazing team, amazing company. They asked, hey girl, like, would you like to come back? I said, no, I'm sorry. I'm just straight up not having a good time. And so now we were in my senior year, and now it's spring. So people are looking for jobs and whatnot. I'm looking for a job. COVID hit, all jobs go in the waste bin. Everything goes away. I was actually one of the lucky ones who was fortunate enough to actually secure a job offer again in finance. But the job offer was truly just nothing special, like a 5-person firm. The pay was like half that of the industry average. And so I was like, no, this is just not it for me. And so with the pandemic, I don't know if you saw this or, were part of this, but a lot of people were like, oh, we kind of get this like pause button right now. So let's better ourselves. So a lot of people started working out. A lot of people started working out and trying to reset a little bit, especially because it was just still in the first quarter of the new year and whatnot. And I remember this so well. I had spent about 10 days just in bed watching Netflix, because now all my classes went pass fail. I had no responsibilities at all, and I was just wasting it. And I remember this so well. I posted this Instagram story that was like, I may not be losing weight, but I'm learning something new. And that happened because I decided to, like, you know what? People always say coding is something to learn. And that's really why I did it, just because, there's those skills that people say, oh, you should do, or things you should experience. You should experience going abroad. You should experience X, Y, and Z. And so that's why I was like, okay, like, let me do this thing that everyone talks about. So I start learning how to code with like the free resources online, like Free Code Camp. Posted that story, and within 3 days I was staying up till like 3, 4 in the morning building static sites. I was obsessed. I was obsessed with it, trying to figure out friends and family who have businesses and trying to see, oh, let's see if I can build something for them. Da, da, da. And now I'm just 4 weeks away from graduation. And here I was with a job offer I didn't even want. And so I was like, you know what? Let me see what I can do. I learned about coding boot camps over YouTube. And long story short, applied, got accepted in June of 2020. So exactly a month after I graduated from college, I got enrolled into a coding boot camp and then got employed October of 2020. So 4 months after.
Nice. I mean, I will say this. I think we've talked about it multiple times on the podcast as well, where 2020, like you said, it really was like the pause button got hit, but even more so was also like, it gave everyone a second to reflect on life. It gave everyone a second to kind of just be like, well, what is it that I really want out of this whole thing? Like, we weren't running all over the place, running from A to B, B to C, and just going from place to place. We were forced to, it was like somebody said, God just told everybody sit down. It was like a force, like just sit down and think. Like, everybody sit down and think. I know so many people who, just like yourself, who were in one industry, and then coming out of COVID, they're like, yeah, by the way, I got a new job. I'm changing what I'm doing, because it was just a perfect time to do all of those moves.
Exactly. So I'm very grateful for being able to reflect on myself and see, hey, it's been 4 years and I keep declining job offers. Let me take some personal inventory in that. But yes, so I'm appreciative of that aspect of things.
Yeah. So my question to you is, so you said you found out about coding, or people talking about code. Was there like a specific, because for a lot of us is like, I know for me, just talking about personal finance and all this stuff, it was a specific conversation I had with one of my uncles who kind of were talking about it. I had been doing the podcast on and off, just kind of talking about stuff. And he had been like, yo, I hear you, because in our little small group, I would like give people like a little bit of advice of like, hey, do this or do that. And he was like, you need to be sharing this on a podcast. And that was like the epitome of just like, I need to be making all of this stuff now and sharing all this information with as many people as possible. So was there anything like that where it was just like, it was a moment where it was like, oh, this seems very cool?
Not really. What it was me looking at all the patterns I had seen. So one, my father was a computer science major. He doesn't code in his career, but he always talked about it just growing up. Then I had taken some coding classes in high school, but I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I was like, no, I'm okay. Y'all can keep that. But then, when we think, it's so funny to think about this now, but the year before, when I was working in finance in New York, there was a time when my manager asked me, hey, can you just fill the journal entry process for the team? I was like, okay, cool, bet, like no worries. And so he gives me this task. And I see that it's going to take like 4 or 5 hours, not because of the difficulty, but just because of the sheer repetitiveness of it. Truly, like saying filling the journal entry process is so much fancier than what it was. It literally was copying and pasting from one Excel sheet to another. That's all it was. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to sit here and do, like, there has to be a better way. And so I looked it up and saw that you can automate the process. And so I spent the afternoon learning how to. And by the end of the day, I was so excited to show my manager how I automated this. And by the click of a button for the rest of, whenever they need it done, they're able to click this button and it automates the journal entry process for the month. And again, it didn't click for me at that moment that I should learn coding. But to this day, well, not to this day anymore, but at that point, it was the best work day I had ever experienced in my life. Like, I called my mom. I went to the bathroom and called my mom. I was like, Mom, you won't believe what I just did, what I just learned in just hours. But that's still something that I've seen in hindsight. It's not something that threw off alarm bells for me. And so that's where the reflection piece comes in. Of wait, let's take a moment. Let's think about our past experiences, think about our highlights and whatnot, and what made us happy. Let's learn to code because, yeah, we have a tiny bit of experience and people keep talking about it. So let's see why.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely my brother always says this. I say in our entire family, he's probably the genius of the family. And we both did mechanical engineering. And then he was like, I'm bored. So I'm going to go do computer science as well. So he like he didn't double, he minored in computer science because he only had like one semester left. So he just like did all those classes real quick to finish it out. And then he was just like, yeah, I'm just going to do this real quick. And so like, but he always says this quote, and it was something he read from, what's his name? Bill Gates. And Bill Gates said that if you give me two people that have seemingly the same skills, I'm always going to pick the person who is more lazy, because they're always going to find the most efficient way to do the job.
Yes, I saw that. With like a meme of like someone who wrapped their lawnmower around a pole so that it would just go in circles, tightening the circle each time.
I played kickball in class, or I picked whatever what was I was like some game with a ball on a stick, and then it just wraps around the stick as much as possible. They were like, I know how to make that, except in real life, with a lawnmower to make it work for me, so I don't have to do it. And I mean, that's so incredible. It's like little stuff that usually ends up standing out, ends up being like the things that were like, oh, that's exactly the direction. So just thinking about just that question of starting out in finance and then switching it up later in life. I just want you to speak to the idea of like, first of all, what drove you to finance or made finance be like, oh, I think I want to do accounting. I think I want to do these things. And then later on you switching over, and then just talk more about the idea of like, you don't have to, I guess, nothing is a finished product at the very beginning. Cause I know there's this pressure on all of us to be like, what I start with has to be the best decision that I'm making right now. But that usually never ends up being the case.
Exactly. Yes. So when it comes to, I'll answer this in steps. So I chose really business. That's what I chose. After taking some classes in high school. I took one class like business management or something, and I loved it so much. And I was part of FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America. I would like love going to state and all this, and I ended up getting the business departmental award in my high school and whatnot. And so I loved business so much. And so initially I was like, oh, let me just do business management because it's business and I like all of the stuff. Like, okay, cool. But then right before I was set to declare that major, there was this esteemed professor, part of the college I went to, that was like, that is the stupidest thing you could possibly do. He was like, why? He was like, why would you get a management degree? Like, what company is going to hire a 22, 23-year-old to manage their team when instead you can get a different degree, get skilled in that thing, and then 5 years, 6 years down the line, be a manager, an overseer, anything you want. And so that's when I would switch courses, and I was like, okay, well, I like math, I like personal finance, and so let me switch to finance and accounting. And I'm really still grateful that I took those courses. That actually is not something I regret at all. I don't ever think back like, oh, I wish I did computer science, or I wish X, Y, and Z. I am very grateful for the tools it gave me for my personal life. And so to me, it just makes me like a stronger individual, those two together.
Yeah. I mean, that's dope. I mean, it's so interesting. Like I always look back, and it's always like little conversations here or there that ends up pushing us in one direction or another direction. Mm-hmm. It's always the stuff that we would think like, it's not that big of a deal, but it ends up being a big deal.
Yes. And I think that's why it's so important for people, young, old, like it doesn't matter, to have mentors, because it's nice to have this person who has the hindsight of 2020 to talk to you and say things to you that they wish they would have said to themselves. Because here I am talking about things I wish I had understood and whatnot. But now hopefully I can say to someone like, oh, you keep declining jobs, maybe you should switch careers, like things like that.
And that's such a good point as well. It's I like to say that we can't see the forest from the trees a lot of the time. So it takes somebody else who's looking on the outside to tell us exactly what's going on and be like, I notice a pattern. Maybe we need to do a little something different here.
Like there's that quote that's like, the closer you look, the less you see. And so that's the thing. Like you have this person who's 20 years removed from you, who can provide that kind of insight. So no, I highly suggest mentors and things like that.
That's definitely a good point. So one thing I always wonder, for me, the ironic thing is like I went the opposite direction from you, where I started off knowing I wanted to be an engineer, and I've done basically everything engineering, and that's been like since I came out of the womb. I was holding a wrench and a screwdriver
Oh,
out the
yes.
hand. And I was
The
like, I'm definitely
protractor.
doing this thing. Yeah, with a protractor. I had a calculator. I had everything just out of the womb.
Oh
I knew
my
this is what I
God.
wanted to do. But over time, now it's like I've morphed over to the other side where I'm like, yeah, I love business. I love learning about how companies operate. I love learning all these things. And it's just like this switch up has happened over time. And one question I wanted to ask you is, what are some of the skill sets that you think that you took from being in finance that you think can also has helped you in your software area, in your drive as you're walking through this world, into this world of software and everything?
I think one of the big things, if not the biggest thing, is data analysis.
Mm.
Like, it is so important being able to analyze patterns, analyze like your code, analyze, okay, so this thing isn't working. So let's try to figure out this way and like put these puzzle pieces together and everything. Because like through my work experiences, through homework, through courses, it was analyzing data and producing conclusions based on it. We would get, for example, what class, like corporate finance, we would get these spreadsheets of balance sheets and income statements, and they would say, okay, so what company is this based on what you see here, based on the growth cycle and their cash flow and everything. And being able to take all this information to provide a succinct like conclusion, that's, I think, the biggest thing I've been able to take away from this, which I'm very, very appreciative of. That, and just in general communication with business, being able to communicate clearly and effectively and efficiently. And now moving to software engineering, where it's kind of like the gag, you know, where it's like, oh, they don't know how to talk, they don't know how to communicate. And so seeing how much that has benefited me in this time. Yeah.
That's definitely, I mean, what they say engineers, you can tell them what to do, but they definitely won't reply until they get what they need to get done, because they don't know how to reply anything. It's just like, which is, it's definitely true. Like even through college, it was like, if you could talk properly, it was like, wow, he's a standout engineer. It was like, nah, I just could have a conversation, but that's always been the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, like being seen as like these robots and everything that are just there to produce this code. It's like, no, I'm actually a fully developed human being, you know, like come sit with me. Let's talk.
That's actually so good, because it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I saw this meme somewhere where it was like, everybody wants you to do something, but everybody thinks they can just like, hey, create this thing. And it's like, yo, it takes 1,000 other things to get to this point. So it's not like I can just poop out whatever you want right here and now. It takes time. And it's like, but because it's like, you're the engineer, right?
It's like, okay, yeah, let me just, yeah, no, that's not it at all. I was saying to someone how like there will be full-on days, which is actually one of my like why I don't like technical interviews with their 30 minutes, 45 minutes solve this problem, because there will be full-on days where you have nothing to show for your work. You have nothing to show for your work. And now here I am trying to get a job and I have to show everything in 45 minutes. And so it's crazy where it's like, no, we're people too. We're just trying to problem solve and make it.
Literally, I told somebody, I said, engineers are God's gift to the world. We create everything that you guys want. So therefore, don't come at us with none of that you just out here thinking that we just like, no, like we are God's gift to this very earth. Everything you thought in your head, guess what? Guess who created it?
Everything you're breaking. Guess who has to fix it? Thanks. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, so one thing I wanted to ask you is just, I like to just give advice to people who are listening to the show. What would be one piece of advice that you can give to everyone of just like how to, even though you're in a situation right now, whether it's you're about to graduate or you already graduated, how do you go through the process of determining the next step for yourself, even though you may end up doing something completely different than what you started off with?
I think one thing is to identify who you're doing this for. Like when I was in this whole thing of like, no, I have to stick on this course and whatnot. Like I never even thought of switching majors or anything. Like that was just not a thing in my world. And so it's important to like think like, who are you doing this for? Are you doing this for you? Or are you doing this for society, for Instagram? Like who are you doing this for? One, and then seeing where that leads. Like, okay, so I'm in this career that I don't really like, but who are you doing this for? Well, I'm doing this because in 10 years, I want to buy a house. In 10 years, I want to start a business. And so I will rough this out.
Yeah.
versus, well, I'm doing this because my parents want X, Y, and Z, but I'm over here miserable. So I think that's a good place to start understanding who you're doing this for. And then afterwards, after you figure out the answer, don't be afraid to like try new things. Like the job you have or the job you're about to have or anything, it's there, it's gonna stay there. So spend an hour or two trying to figure out other things, trying to talk to other people, try to like learn to code, try to, there's so many in 2021, it's fantastic. There's so many free resources out there. Like I went to a coding bootcamp, which has build me out the wazoo and everything, but it would have been possible for me to learn free because of just how many resources there are in this world. And so don't take that for granted. Like take all those resources, whether it's playing the guitar, art, engineering, just figure out where you can get these free resources and go from there. And yeah, listen to yourself, listen to the little excitement that you feel that when you do these different things. Where does your mind go when you're fantasizing about work and things like that?
I think that's a great advice. It's like just paying attention to what it is that you are actually thinking about. Like, I think one of the things we've talked about multiple times on this is just the idea of just taking that moment to reflect, of just taking that moment to think. Because like you said, it's like, where is your mind? And a lot of us don't even know where our mind is to start off with. Like we just feel like we're just running from place to place all the time. And if we never take that second or that minute or that day to just take a walk without headphones in and just take a walk, observe nature around you, and just allow your thoughts, actually hear your thoughts for that moment in time.
There's this joke that's like, but I'm trying to stay out of my mind. Like I'm trying to not touch that dark hole. So I think that's part of it, like the fear of what you're gonna discover when you do take that walk. But no, like be brave and just take that hour, like you said.
Like my brother likes to tell me, because he's a daredevil and I'm not. So whenever I'm trying to do something that I know I don't really want to do, I'll call him because I know he'll get me to do it. He always likes to say this quote. He would be like, on the other side of fear is faith. But then he says, on the other side of fear is also everything that you could have ever wanted, which is like, and I would just be like, man, I ain't trying to hear you say all that, I just like whatever. Like, but it's so true. And it's like, once we embrace that fear that we're in that end for that moment, everything just kind of moves along.
No, and I'm such a quotes person, and so like I have to like say to myself these different quotes and mantras throughout the day. And like with fear, it's like, what would you do if you weren't afraid? That's something I say to myself constantly, and that is what I try to like help guide me through this little thing called life.
So you talked about this once on a video, and I just wanted to talk a little bit more in depth about this, is the idea of what role do you think that your career plays, or maybe it wasn't a question you posted on IG, but what role do you think career plays in us being able to find our purpose, which is something that I feel like everybody's asking nowadays, is like, what is my purpose? What am I here for? And all this other stuff. What role do you think that a career plays in finding that purpose while we're on this earth?
I think there's a couple ways to go here. I think for some people, their career is their purpose. Like if you're over here being a neurosurgeon, if you're over here even being like, a software engineer or a finance manager, depending on what your goal is your goal to increase or decrease the wealth gap between, different people of color? Is your goal to make sure that AI is more inclusive in this world? I think it can be the same thing. Your purpose driving the career you choose. But at the same time, it can also be reversed, where it's sometimes because of someone's career, they're like, no, some change has to happen here. And through the gaps and holes that they see in this quote unquote system, that's what leads to their purpose of the extracurricular stuff, people being able to start organizations, start nonprofits, being able to donate to X, Y, and Z, being able to mentor certain types of people because of the light the career made them see. So it really can be either or. But honestly, at the end of the day, if you find that purpose, like don't mute it. Like that's an amazing, amazing thing to just know and feel and just like go towards it.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. And it's one of those things you find out very quickly, like your purpose ends up making ways that you can't even see for yourself before you even think about it. So yeah, definitely. If you discover something that you just keeps driving you,
Yeah.
Just hold on to that thing. It may not play out right now, but you never
Yeah.
know where it can be later on. Just keep on building on it, feeding it, and it can become much huge way
Yeah.
down the line than you even think about.
Yeah, and it's not a perfect world. Some people, they need the career in order to even have the money to start dabbling with their purpose. And so
Yep.
it's not, I'm not saying to quit your job and go like hike the Maldives. Like I'm not saying but but just start with the recognizing of it, pinpointing it down.
Yeah, I like to say rather than follow your fashion, fund your passion. Because a lot of times our passions tend to cost a lot of money and they don't bring a whole lot of money in initially. So fund that passion with a job that you got and make it work for you in the short term. So
exactly.
So the last question that I have for you before we close this thing out, and then we'll play a little bit of a game before I'll let you get out of here, is I saw a post on Instagram that you talked about resting and you were working like 2 jobs at a time and you were just kind of burning it at, I will say you were burning it at both ends of the sticks, but it was for a period of time. And so I just want to ask you, what do you think rest plays a role into career, into life, into everything, and making sure that we're getting appropriate rest? And then also, you also added on there where you were like, I'm not doing anything, I'm off, but now I feel guilty about being off. And I was like, don't do that. Don't do that. But ones I want to ask you, why did you feel guilty? And then also, has your mindset with rest changed and developed over time? Is that
Yes.
point?
So you said, why did I feel guilty? Well, I feel like, especially young people right now, being part of this hustle culture, I've talked about that in previous videos where I'm trying so hard to like escape from that. During college, oh my gosh, that was me. I was that hustle culture person. Everyone knew it as well. Like, and it's a annoying, but you get all this praise for it. I remember with finance, looking at companies like Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch and whatnot. With Goldman Sachs, you would say, oh, I slept only at 5 a.m. because I got home at 4 and here I am today at 7. And they would applaud for you. Like you're seen as like the one to be. And that's not okay. That's not a good thing. And so I think it comes from the hustle culture, why I felt that guilt of I'm going against what people are saying that, yo, you have to be ambitious, you have to be da-da-da, but you can still be ambitious and still get 8 hours of rest, you know? And so and that's why I also voiced it that I feel guilty, because I didn't want to feel guilty alone. I wanted to acknowledge that there is learning and switching of my mindset that needs to happen. But in terms of like my thoughts on rest, I think it's very simple. Do it. I mean, like at the end of the day, and that's what is so unfortunate. It's my mom who says this to me a lot, and this might be a little bit morbid, but when you die, your company will replace you immediately. If they even show up to the funeral, like they will replace you immediately. You need to do the things that fill your own heart, whether it be rest by either sleeping or by taking a walk or by taking a trip, taking that time to acknowledge your own body, your own wants and needs. And that's something I've been working on, trying to say to myself, like, okay, let me listen to my body. What does it need? Instead of suppressing this headache with 3 Advils and whatnot, but let me actually listen. I have a headache because I haven't slept in 4 days. I haven't eaten since 7 a.m. I haven't looked outside. So let me nurture those things. And so that's really my take on rest, to do it and like don't feel guilty about it. But I too am working on that switch in mindset.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff, because it's definitely true. Because in art right now, it's even I fall into that same thing where it's just like I just want to go. I just want to keep doing stuff, and if stuff aren't happening, I got to figure out why is stuff not happening. And it's like I just want to keep going and going, but it's like at some point, I don't know. I'm a Christian, so one of the things in the Bible is like even God needed 1 day of rest. It's like He created the world in 6 days, and on the 7th day He rested. So I'm not God. So how much more do I need rest? Like, so it's definitely a good point of just like, our bodies are literally, I mean, even I like to make fun of my sister. She's a doctor, but I'll be like, she says that all engineers are fake because all we do is copy what the human body does and then make it into a machine. And I say, well, that just means we're just that much smarter because we're able to take what the human body does. All you guys fix stuff. We create stuff. But anyway, but she was just saying, like, at the same time, just like a machine, you can't run your computer at 100 miles an hour all the time. At some point, you gotta either restart it, shut it down, give it some kind of cool down period, or it's going to have issues.
It'll crash, and it's funny because even when I wrote that post of I'm off now and everything, I had been working 2 jobs, like 2 full-time jobs, and doing YouTube 3 posts a week for about 2 or 3 months. I can't remember now, but 2 or 3 months. That when late April, early May hit, and I was so free, I had this thing of like, oh, like now I can really like pour more into YouTube and everything. I don't know if like people noticed, but there was a solid 2 months where I did not post regularly. I think in like those 2 months I posted where I usually would have posted like 24 videos, I posted like 6. And it's because like I just completely crashed. I just couldn't do it. My body saw this sliver of rest of this light and it just took all of it and was like, nah, girl, you're done for the day. And so that's the thing. That's why you need rest, because if you don't do it now, you're going to be forced to rest in a time that is so inconvenient for you and your goals. And so you need to like take control of that yourself before your body takes over.
Yeah. That's definitely true on that point. And then speaking of rest, one of the things you talked about was just you started going to therapy and you started visiting a therapist. That's the word. That's the word. I don't know words. I didn't go to school for English. I didn't go to school for any of that. I know 1 + 1 is 2. That's what I need to know. I know A + B = C. And I'm good. That's what I needed to know. But anyway, so you started going to a therapist. So I wanted to just ask you about just the process of like, you've spoken about it a bit on your channel as well, of just that process of just starting to talk about these things. And then also I want to talk where you share about just the initial process of when you first started with it and some of the things that held you back from doing it.
Yeah, to be honest, I think I said this in my video. Like I dedicated a video to therapy because I had kind of just mentioned it one-offs here and there, but I was like, let me just put it all in one place. And I had wanted to go to therapy since I was like 7 years old. And I remember I actually like told my mom, I was like, I like want to talk to somebody, because my mind has always been this thing that's like go, go, go. And like I made that that saying that I was like, oh, I'm trying to stay out of there. There's this quote that this is also kind of dark and morbid, but there's this quote that I was like, I stayed so often in my head, I wound up losing my mind. And it's like this thing that I was like, I knew that I need a healthier way to process the things going on around me. And so throughout, being a kid, I asked for one, but where's the Zimbabweans, things are kept within the house, within the 4 walls. And so then college came, and with my college, I was fortunate enough to have a college that every semester you'd have 6 free sessions given to you in order to restart each semester. However, I did not go. I did not go until there was this one time where I was like, okay, let me go. I went, and they kind of discouraged me from going again, literally saying they don't think I should. When I say they, I mean the institution, I mean the actual counselors. And so I didn't go again. And I waited until I had this mindset like, okay, I'll wait until I get a full-time job. That way I can pay for it all on my own. My parents don't have to be involved and everything. And that's what I did. Once I got my job, so like last winter, that's when I saw a therapist. And that's when I started seeing her. And I was paying all of it out of pocket. It was like almost $200 a session. And I was fine, like putting aside a budget for that. Like my thing is like, as long as it's, finance, as long as it's budgeted out, I feel less bad about it. But also being finance, I was like, Naya, you have insurance. I
can get this covered. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. I was like, Naya. So like I paid for like 3 sessions on my own until I was like, Naya, like, girl, like, come on. And so then I called my mom, and I made it basically like I was just like, oh, so by the way, you might see a charge on the insurance for therapy. But anyway, how is your day? And we never spoke about it again. And so that's really like how I went about all of that. And I hate that I did that, because at the end of the day, no matter whose thoughts are on mental health and your, quest for, bettering yourself and everything, whatever their thoughts are, that is none of my business. And so I wish I had that attitude going in, even if like my mom, like if she has a problem, that's none of my business. That's a conversation between her and her therapist. And so I think that's the biggest thing, like realizing that like what other people think or say, or that is none of your business really. And all you can do is do the best you can to be the best person, the best version of yourself you can be. And so I've been very happy that I've been seeking therapy, and it's a Black woman. I'm a Black woman. She's a Black woman. And yeah, like for me, that was important. And I got her as a referral, which was also important because I think one of the biggest things that would have pushed off therapy is the quest to find the right match. Yeah. And so I was very happy that I was able to get a referral from like a best friend of mine. And yeah, it's been good. And now really what it is being able to be very forthcoming with my therapist. Because now I can sometimes have this attitude of like, but I want her to like me. Like I don't want, like, what will she think? And like, especially her being like a Black woman, it then puts her in the same realm as like my mom in my mind. And so I think that's what's the problem now and everything. But in general, do it. There's this like joke I saw that was like, I think it's like the SpongeBob meme, like SpongeBob is like whispering, I think it was like in like Sandy's or Mr. Krabs' ear. And it was like, tell me you're in therapy. And it's like the hairs like raise up. Like that's like a thing now. It's like, oh, like a person in therapy, like yes, please. So like, yeah, I think therapy is good for like everybody, especially if you have the insurance and the means and the time. And make the time. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your mental health is extremely important. Just like we take care of our bodies, we need to take care of our minds as well. So it definitely is just something I wanted to use as just a way to just like share with everybody. Like, hey, like if you can, like definitely find a way to especially if you can't really talk to anybody else, or you feel like you can't talk to anybody else about some things. Like, I mean, that's what a therapist is there for. Like they have a confidentiality agreement with you to not bring up any of this stuff. So yeah, definitely.
Yes, and definitely remember that confidentiality when you're over here like, oh, but like I said, I want her to like me. I don't want.
What happens in the office stays in the office.
Like she's there to help you. She's not there to be your friend, like no. You're not gonna grab a beer with her. Like say what you need to say.
Yeah, we're not, this is not that, and that is not this. So yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, just to close out the podcast with a quick game. For you, it's one that I like to play. It's called This or That. You have to pick one of the two options. You have to pick one. You can't be like, I like both. No, none of that. You have to decide on one of the two things. All right, you good?
Okay.
All right, let's begin. First one is mountains or the beach?
Beach.
Fall or spring?
Fall.
Tea or coffee?
Tea. I'm British. Like
same way. That's the same exact way. I'm Nigerian. It's like, I don't like coffee at all. It's all tea. Tea all the time in the house. That's all we do.
That's what colonized us. So
literally. So it's become like, oh man, it was funny. My dad was like, I don't understand. He was talking about us. He was like, I don't understand us. We'll drink hot tea in a hot suit, and we live in Nigeria, which is a hot country. What are we doing? Like, why are we doing this to ourselves? But either way. Cake or ice cream?
Ice cream.
Oh, that was the hesitancy there. Solo. Do you work in groups or solo by yourself?
Solo.
I knew that was gonna be the answer.
But in job interviews, I can do.
You guys like, yeah. I'm an excellent group player. I help people as needed. All the right interview answers that you gotta give, and it's like,
too much.
Leave me alone. Let me do my work.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Android or iOS?
iOS.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Windows or Mac OS?
Oh, come on. Mac. Now you know the answer.
Oh my gosh. Where now problems are just starting to arise.
No, but you're a mechanical engineer, so I get that. So I understand. You're a mechanical engineer, so like I understand that.
All right. Well, I still like every time somebody tells me like Android, they pick the other, I'm just like, well, I look at you in a whole different vein now. So
I saw this thing that I was like, my iPhone could wake up in the middle of the night and kill me, and I still wouldn't choose an Android.
Wow. Well, there you go. Well, at least we know Apple got you in their pockets. They're just like, we have them now. We're never letting them go. Those claws are just going deeper and deeper in and never letting you go. YouTube or Netflix?
Netflix.
Really?
I was really shocked. Someone told me this like a week ago that they watch YouTube more than like Netflix or like TV. And that shocked me to my very core because I don't watch YouTube. I film and post my video and then I close the laptop. Like that gif, like the person just slamming their laptop after. That's me. So like I was really shocked to hear that. I didn't know YouTube was seen like that.
Yeah, I don't watch anything but YouTube. Like YouTube is literally everything I watch. Like people will be like, yo, you need to check out this show. And I'll be like, yeah. 4 weeks later, have you watched that show?
What show?
yeah. It's just like, it turns into a fight.
You know, they're like, oh, they haven't gone past the pilot.
One of my best friends gets on me all the time. He's like, bro, it's been how long? Get on this. It's just like, I'm sorry, dog.
What show is it for?
It's just like, so we watch a lot of anime. So are you into anime?
No.
You need to get on that. You need to get on that wave, man.
Mostly men that are on it. I've never met a woman who's.
Oh, you said like, what?
I'm just saying.
I am insulted. I am insulted.
Okay. You know,
I mean, there's a lot. I have a lot of my friends or all my female friends also like anime. They watch it a lot too. They're good ones. So here's like, okay, on the side, here's like some homework for you for like starter pack anime.
Oh yes, Mr. I don't watch things people recommend.
Hey man, I watch, anime is like the one thing that I would watch.
Okay.
Eventually, there's a ... and then I'll get around to it at some point.
Okay.
But like starter pack anime, SOA. I think if you like dramas, you enjoy it.
Okay.
Naruto is another good one. Let's see. Ooh, yes, definitely My Hero Academia is another good one.
I'm gonna need you to slow that down.
Okay. I'm gonna stop. Just start off. Just start off with Sword Art Online and My Hero Academia. They're both on Netflix. Since you watch Netflix.
Yes.
Just
okay.
Start off with those.
Okay.
After those, then
Talk to me in a year.
Podcast or books?
Podcast are like audiobooks,
I love podcasts. And since you don't watch YouTube, I'm not even gonna ask this question, so we're just gonna keep.
Wait, what was it? I still don't know.
So everybody who watches YouTube usually does it in one of two ways. Either they actually watch the videos, or they just listen and don't even then barely watch videos.
Oh, what? Oh, you have to watch the video.
Okay. Well, moving on. So let's close this thing out. What is one place that you want to travel to once we are fully back opened up?
I want to go to Florence, Italy. I have been in the past, but only for like a day. It was like a whole excursion of like in 13 days. I went to like 4 different countries and like 2 cities per country. And so I really want to go to Florence because it's like one of the places that I was just at peace, like literally just out there on the balcony with my wine, my cheese, and my bread. I was just at peace. And there's actually a place near where I live now that is a wine bar and everything, and it provides that. And so I go like once every few weeks just to experience that. But yeah, Florence, Italy, for the calmness of it all.
Nice. Very nice. And finally, just to close everything out, what is one piece of advice that you would give to everyone listening right now before we let you go?
One piece of advice
on anything from career to basically anything.
On anything, it would be to stop like chasing like the hype of things, because there are even people who are trying to do software engineering for the hype of it. Stop chasing the hype of it, because even if you get there, you're not going to like it. You're still going to be miserable. You're still not going to have the same, Instagram, captions and everything that these people who actually enjoy it have and everything. And so stop chasing the hype of things and really, like I said, listen to your body, listen to your mind, and just take a real inventory of what you want most and go from there.
Yeah, that's such good advice. I don't know, when you said that, there was I don't know if you remember this Vine, but there was this Vine that was like, do it for the gram. No, I ain't gonna do it. And it was just that Vine just started playing in my head. And it's so true. It's like, don't just do stuff for everybody else. Like, figure out what it is that's gonna actually make you happy.
Exactly. And that's something I also had to learn with the social media types and everything. Like I tried opening like a TikTok and I was like, nah, this is not for me. I cannot do it. And so that is just left to die and everything. So it's just like things like that. Like figure out like what you want most and go from there.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Well, Naya, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. I know I have definitely enjoyed it. I hope everybody who listened to this as well got something out of this whole thing, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Before you get out of here, share where people can find you on all your social medias and everything.
Yeah, so on Instagram at the Black Female Engineer, on YouTube, the Black Female Engineer, it's like Black and female, one word. You can email me, theblackfemaleengineer@gmail.com, theblackfemaleengineer.com. Literally just Google the Black Female Engineer and just copy and paste all that pops up.
And guys, I'll also share everything down in the show notes. So if you want to go check her out, if you want to hear more about where she's heading to and some of the moves that she's making that I didn't want to touch on, I was like, let her tell that story as she's moving into that phase of life. But as she's making all those changes, please go check her out. I'm gonna put all her links down in the show notes. Guys, again, check her out, listen to her, hear all her stories, see where she's coming from. But anyway, thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, share it with one person that you love, one person that you hate, and one person that you're just kind of like about. And by that time, you just shared it with every single person that you know. But anyways, being your boy Kelechi, thank you all once again for listening. I'm gonna catch you all up in the next one. Remember, generosity is always greater than greed. God bless each and every single one of y'all, and we out of here. Peace.